Alright, hello everyone and welcome to the WWE discussion. I'm your host and WWE enthusiast, Dougie Doug. In today's episode, I'm going to be discussing Monday Night Raw, September 18, 2023 edition. And Monday Night Raw has become the Jey Uso show, and this edition of Raw would open with Cody Rhodes putting over Jey Uso and ending with Jey in the main event against Drew McIntyre. McIntyre would walk away with the victory, but the show continued to highlight Jey's potential as a main event act, especially working alongside the American Nightmare and to Judgment Day. Ricochet challenged Shinsuke Nakamura and almost had the artist beat. However, the one and only would disqualify himself, leading to a win for Nakamura. Ricochet, though, has set himself up as a potential challenger for Seth Rollins. Bronson Reed and Chad Gable fought over the right to challenge Gunther for the IC title next. Tommaso Ciampa is also making his own claim for that title, so the Intercontinental Championship scene currently crowded. Overall, show was a bit chaotic, never settling enough on the key angles and allowing them to stand out. And with that, we'll go ahead and get right into the action, starting with Jey Uso, who has become a top star since his move to Raw without the bloodline. And WWE's ability to create stars oftentimes falls under scrutiny. However, the company has let it on gold recently with a couple of rising acts, LA Knight being one, Jey Uso being the other one. And between the two, Jey might be the hottest good guy in WWE right now. Even on nights that Raw does not live up to expectations, crowds still go wild for him. His work with the Bloodline was underrated for a while, but has grown to be more appreciated since he broke away from Reigns and Jimmy. It's wild to hear the reactions he gets as he's competing at the highest level right now. While he will eventually collide with his brother Jimmy and possibly challenge the tribal chief again, I don't think that's entirely likely, but can't rule it out. Jey seems better off on his own, as he can stand as a top act, competing in singles main events against the best talent in WWE. And also, he turned down the Judgment Day, so I expect that feud to continue. Ricochet, is he the next challenger for Seth Rollins? Well, let's make the case. So Rollins and Nakamura have unfinished business, but Shinsuke has said that he will choose the time and place for his next match with Rollins, and Rollins pretty much used the old cliche to tell Nakamura, hey, you name the time and place and we can fight. So yeah, the ball is now in Shinsuke's court to make that decision. And while it would be easy to book Rollins versus Nakamura at the next big show, Ricochet is in the picture at the moment and could be a good stop. Would be a good stopgap challenger for Rollins. He proved his value in his battle with Logan Paul at SummerSlam. He could put on a great match with anyone, and he would push Rollins to wrestle at his absolute best. Fastlane is a secondary show compared to like Crown Jewel or Survivor Series, which would make it a good opportunity to highlight a rising star like the one and only. Now, Ricochet wouldn't win, but he can continue to raise his status, so why not give him the opportunity? Granted, Rollins versus Nakamura really shouldn't be continuing after Rollins beat Nakamura at Payback, but if you are going to stretch it out to a show like Crown Jewel, then sure, have Rollins compete at Fastlane against Ricochet. Give him an opportunity at the very least to compete for the title. And then 50-50 booking, rearing its ugly head on this show and holding back promising stars like Chad Gable. So Gable has been a highlight for Raw has been a highlight on Raw in recent leaks. His story with Gunther remains one of the best, assuming WWE's not moving on from it. Unfortunately, it looks like they could be moving on for it before some sort of payoff. Gable lost to Bronson Reed, who has lost his past two matches to Ciampa and Nakamura. Reed is a talented big man, but he hardly has the credibility necessary to defeat one of Raw's top acts. Meanwhile, the Blackheart continues to lay claim to his own Intercontinental Championship match. He's declaring his shot, despite only winning just his last two matches against Reed and Imperium. None of these men look credible if they are simply trading wins with each other. The goal should be to build stars with serious credibility, especially given how dominant Gunther has been as champion. 50-50 booking serves no one but lazy bookers who cannot decide which star they want to step up. Gable especially deserves better focus, but Reed and Ciampa should also get their opportunities to shine as well, but they have to be picking up wins against other talent and not trading wins with each other. So I talked about the Intercontinental title scene being crowded. You got Gable and Ciampa vying for the title. I don't know how much Reed is in the picture, but he got a win over Gable, so I guess you could make an argument that he's in there. But in Reed versus Gunther would certainly be a fascinating matchup to watch how that one would be booked. But yeah, it is quite curious to see what the end game is for this one. Does Gable get a rematch, and if so, when he does, you'd imagine Gunther is defending the title at Fastlane, but who's he defending the title against? Right now, WWE doesn't seem to know, so hopefully they can figure that one out. And then talking about the show overall, well, let's be honest, Monday Night Football is huge, especially when they got 2 games going on. It's going to be tough for Monday Night Raw to compete, and at the very least for this episode, it appears like they are in quote-unquote off-season mode. Another way to think about it is that they're just kind of mailing it in. And, you know, truth be told, it was not long ago that Raw was the hottest show for WWE. But in recent weeks, you know, this is only week 2 of Monday Night Football, but in, you know, past couple of weeks, Raw's kind of been slipping. Matches are lacking stakes. Storytelling involving Judgment Day has just kind of been on a loop, and not a particularly interesting one. Cody Rhodes should feel like a fresh challenger, but he really isn't a fresh challenger, and he squashed Dominic Mysterio on Raw, so his insertion into the feud isn't really making that big of an impact. Jey Uso is now been thrown into the story as well to add a fresh element, but he's not. All he really comes off as is an extension of the feud that Rhodes, Zayn, and Owens have against the Judgment Day. So other than consistent use of Nia Jax, which she's only been on a show for 2 weeks, but and give him credit, at least she was on the show the past couple of weeks. The women's division still struggling to get off the ground, and Jax is not the most exciting challenger for Rhea Ripley, even though when you look at the sizes of the two of them, it would make for an intriguing matchup, but just the way they went about it makes it less exciting. Gunther's best challenger seemingly falling into the background. Seth Rollins, who has touted himself as a fighting world champion, hasn't wrestled on 6 straight episodes of Raw. The wrestling cards have been lackluster for Raw recently, and the next week doesn't look like it will improve much on that. Although I did see Chad Gable versus Bronson Reed, and that might not be an exciting matchup, but given the size of both competitors, it would be an intriguing matchup to see how they book it. And perhaps WWE is just taking it easy while the NFL basically takes over Monday nights, but that wouldn't be fair to the fans of WWE if you're just mailing it in because Monday Night Football gets more views. So hopefully they're able to kind of turn things around and at the very least put on shows that people either want to tune in over football, or at the very least shows that if fans missed it because they chose to watch Monday Night Football, at the very least hey, at least it would be worth 3 hours of my time to go back and watch it. So put in a little bit of effort maybe. So in conclusion, this week's show was full of rematches that did little to advance the storylines, a few strange booking decisions, and an impromptu NXT Women's title match that nobody will remember. To be clear, this week's show being weak, that's all in booking. The men and women of WWE will always do their best to entertain the crowd in the arena, and the fans at home, but there's only so much they can do. They do the best that they can to work with what they are given, but sometimes what they are given is not much to work with. The standout match this week was probably Kingston versus Ivar, which wasn't even the original plan heading into Monday night, and give credit to the WWE, at least they tried to play it off, Eric being injured and whatnot. At least they leaned into that. Nakamura and Ricochet had a fun encounter, but something about Ivar doing a moonsault was always going to make a match stand out. The next Premium Live event isn't too far away. It's in October, that being Fastlane. This should be the time where WWE's current storylines, they should be using this time up to Fastlane to end some current storylines. Most of what is being presented each week feels repetitive, but a fresh start for a handful of stars could help improve not only Raw but SmackDown as well, closing out the year and going into 2024. And with that, we'll go and wrap up this episode of the discussion. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that like button down below.